So this is my 1969 Honda CT90, and the fuel lines are really crusty, so we're going to be replacing the fuel lines and putting in some inline fuel filters while we're at it. Alright, so some of the things you're going to need for this job are WD-40 in case it's hard to get any of the fuel lines on where they need to go. Some fuel line, I think this is 3/16 of an inch diameter. I got it from Honda. Some inline fuel filters, some hose clamps to make sure the fuel lines are on there good. I'll put links in the description for where I got the fuel line, inline fuel filters, and hose clamps. A ratchet with a 10mm and 8mm socket, and maybe a flathead screwdriver just in case some of the old fuel lines are hard to get off. Alright, first things first, if the fuel tank and seat are still attached to your bike, I have another video on my channel on how to remove the fuel tank from the bike, and if I can figure out how to do it, I'll put a link to that video somewhere. If not, just go to my channel and look around for it. After the fuel tank is all nice and removed, we're gonna have to deal with this plastic piece here toward the front of the bike. And there are 3 screws on it, I think. It's a 10mm here, and on the other side, there's another 10mm and an 8mm over here under where the gas tank was. So we're gonna use our ratchets to remove those. Put that in a safe place. Turns out there's actually 4 bolts on the plastic thing, because there's one down here that I forgot about. I just had this plastic thing off, so they're all just hand tight, but these are 10mm in case you need a socket for them. Alright, let's go to the other side and remove this last bolt here. Put that in a safe place. All of these bolts had a washer on them, and the longest bolt goes right under the gas tank on the left-hand side of the bike. All the other bolts are identical. Now with all the bolts removed, we can remove this plastic piece right here. Put that somewhere safe. And now we have full access to our fuel lines. This is our reserve line, I think, leading into the carburetor, and this is our other fuel line. Make sure to mark your fuel lines or take pictures so that you don't mix them up. I'm pretty sure this is the reserve because it's the one I marked with painter's tape. I'm gonna freehand you a bit here to show you where the fuel lines go. So here are the 2 fuel lines that led into the gas tank. They come up through here, and they go in the frame, and then they go through here, and they come out of the frame right here. And they go straight through under this, around to the carburetor. So in terms of a game plan, I've seen a lot of people, or I've heard about a lot of people removing the cover for the battery, which gives you a little hole into the middle of the frame. and then using that to thread the fuel line through all the way. That sounds very tedious to me. So what I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to affix the new fuel lines to the old ones with tape and pull them through the frame by the bottom of the old ones. And then I want to attach the fuel filters out here, so they'll be easier to attach and they'll still be protected by the plastic piece once we put that back on. Back to our little tool station here. I bought 4 feet of fuel line. I heard someone say on the forums that 3 feet is plenty, but I'm gonna be putting in fuel filters and well and stuff. I just need a lot of extra fuel line just in case. So I'm gonna find the middle of the fuel line and give it a snip. Like so. Now we should have two 2-foot lengths of fuel line. Now at this point I was looking all around my house for duct tape, but I couldn't find any duct tape, so we're gonna be using electrical tape. We'll see if this works. I'm basically just gonna pull this out, line them up like this, and then tape them really good so that they don't come apart. Right. I probably overdid it on the tape, honestly. I really just don't want these guys coming apart. So that one's taped on real good. Let's move on to the next one. Like so. At this point, I want to detach the other ends of the old fuel lines from the carburetor, just to make it a little bit easier to pull it through. Also, don't forget to take a picture and mark one of your fuel lines so that you know which is which when you pull them through. Beautiful, the reserve line's off. So now we can pull the new reserve fuel line through. So I'm gonna come on over to the other side here. Right here is the opening in the frame through which the fuel lines come out of the frame. And I'm going to grab our reserve fuel line like so and bring it over. And now, hopefully, we can just give it a tug and it will come through. Although that is a really tight opening. I see it. Maybe we spray some WD-40. Okay. Slowly but surely. I think it's connected to this fuel line on the right. I'm gonna go ahead and get some gloves on so I can grip it better. Also, now that I'm pulling this through and realizing how tight it is, I'm realizing that this knuckle up here of tape where it's a little bit thicker might be hard to get through. So I've already pulled it through too much where I can't pull the knuckle out. But for the next one, I'll pull it out and pre-spray it with WD-40 so it slides through a little bit easier. But for now, I'm just gonna keep yanking on this fuel line here. I'm just pulling it through little by little and wiggling it back and forth. These gloves are really coming in handy. It looks like we've reached the taped part here, which honestly looks like it's gonna be pretty rough to pull through. So I'm just gonna try to pull it through. If the tape comes undone, we'll get our hands up in the frame through the battery cover and see if we can shimmy it out. Oh my gosh, would you look at that? We pulled it through. Beautiful. Never doubted myself for a second. Now the new fuel line is coming out beautifully. It probably doesn't even need any WD-40. I'm just afraid we're messing up the new fuel line by pulling it through such a tight space, so I'm gonna lube it up a little bit. Because you can hear that scraping, can't you? It's making me cringe a little bit. So we'll lube it up, like so. All right, now you're gonna push it through here, or wherever your fuel lines go, just follow the other fuel line. And bring it out the other side, just like that. Beautiful. It was a little bit iffy, but it ended up working perfectly. We pulled the fuel line through, and now we can undo the electrical tape that we put on. I'm actually gonna mark the reserve fuel line now with electrical tape. It'll be a little bit more discreet, and you'll still be able to see it. And it'll probably have less of a chance of falling off, like the painter's tape did. So, and you can still see it. So there we go. Now we're gonna grab one of our hose clamps here. Keep in mind which direction you want the hose clamp to be in when you put it on. And we're gonna try to thread the new fuel line onto the metal, and it goes on just perfectly. Just perfectly well. We're gonna move that up on out of the way. And we're just gonna squeeze that on. Beautiful. Now we're gonna move up our hose clamp, grab our flathead, there we go. We tightened that up really nicely. It's not in the way of anything, I hope. No, this still presses all the way down. All right, let's repeat the same steps for the other fuel line. Beautiful. All right, you know the drill, but this time we're gonna preemptively lube up the tape so that part slides through just a little bit easier. And the tape is through. Now, same thing as last time. We're just going to put on a hose clamp and push in the fuel line all the way, like so, and tighten her up. Now it's time for the last step, putting in these inline fuel filters, just so any crud that still remains in the gas tank after we clean it out doesn't make it to the carburetor and gunk it up. So the plan is going to be to make a cut right here in these fuel lines. This is where they come out of the frame. and to put one of them right here, and then one of them up here probably, one in each fuel line. For these inline fuel filters specifically, the gas goes in on this side and it comes out on this end. But it's different for every inline fuel filter. These fuel filters that I bought are actually for tubing that's 1/4 of an inch, and our fuel lines are 3/16 of an inch. So I don't even think I have to put a hose clamp on these. Since these are bigger than the fuel line usually takes, it'll probably be just a really tight fit, and we'll be good. So first things first, I'm gonna make a cut in this fuel line right here. Here it goes. Just like that. Oh, I actually made a very diagonal cut on that fuel line, which isn't very good, but that's why we bought extra fuel line, so we could have extra room for mistakes. So I'll just make them both straight again. I'm going to just put a little bit of WD-40 on a microfiber towel and just put a little bit on the tip of this so it slides in just a little bit easier. We'll see how they do with no hose clamps, and if I do need one, I'll put one on later. I didn't leave myself enough slack on the other side. I must not have. Okay, let's push it in. Yeah, you don't even need any WD-40. Just shove it in. Like so. Beautiful. One done. I mean, usually you'd stagger them, but I might just put them side by side because we have a lot of room anyway. Like so. Oh, it's diagonal again. Oh well. Let me fix it. Sorry, this one's in the way. Like so. There we go. I am just gonna leave them there. I wonder if they're good to just be left right there. Probably. And look at that. We got all this extra fuel line. You could probably make 3 feet work, just 1.5 feet on each one. But it's nice to have a little bit extra just in case. Now, if your fuel tank is ready to go, you can put that back on and just attach these back onto the fuel tank. Use a hose clamp if you want. But my fuel tank still needs to be cleaned out. So I'll put that back on after I clean it out. Now, don't forget to put the plastic part back on. Make sure this hole is aligned with right here. That's where it goes. Make sure all of the cords and stuff are tucked inside. And this one is a 10mm, I believe. This one's a 10mm. And with that, you should be done. I'll link all of the links that I got the fuel lines, hose clamps, and inline fuel filters from in the description. I'll link the video where I remove the gas tank. And if I missed anything, feel free to let people know in the comments. Like the video if it helped out. And feel free to subscribe for more content.